Okay, can you guys all hear me properly?
Yeah.
Okay, and I hope you can see the screen as well. The PowerPoint. Yeah, okay, all right. All right, so welcome everyone, and today we will actually cover Journey Builder basics. Journey Builder, actually, there's quite a lot. If you there's more advanced topics as well. Today we'll just focus on the basics, what Journey Builder is, what are the building blocks, like how we saw Automation Studio yesterday. So similarly, what is Journey Builder, how is it different from Automation Studio, what the use cases that you can use it for, how do you build a sample Journey Builder, and if time permits, let's see if we can run a sample one and see how it works as well. Okay. So like I mentioned yesterday, Automation Studio is primarily meant for running your different automations in Marketing Cloud. Like uh, if you want to do any data processing or file operations, those kind of things, like doing a data extract. If you want to run or automatically segment data from your data extensions. So those kind of things, if in advanced segmentation, like not only just filter, like even using queries, and then if you want to do any programming wise, if you want to run a script to do some data operations, all these you can actually automate through Automation Studio. Even send out emails, right? So Journey Builder is not meant for that. Journey Builder is as the name itself tells you, it's about journeys. So it's a way or a path through which you would actually send a customer. Okay. So many a times, companies would have different scenarios that they will say, okay, well, we want to engage our customers and take them through and send them multiple emails, but based on but each set of customer maybe going through a different set of journey, right? So there's initially when you might get a set of customers, like whoever joins your organization or or buys something from you and registers as a new customer, you probably would look at a welcome email for them, right? Then later on, and based on their purchasing capability, or or based on their tier or their loyalty membership, or some factors, you might want to market out to them, and every customer is different, so some maybe people who have been doing a lot of buying from your site, right? So for them, you might want to identify and give them extra incentives when compared to some of the people who maybe do not do that much buying from your site. There might be sometimes you might have a special campaign where you want to go and engage people who haven't actually bought from you for a while, right? So that is one that you can think of as well. So you might have some special incentive program or some sales program that you have. That is one way to look at it. Again, so the Automation Studio is something that you can use to look at data, segment that, those kind of scenarios, and then get the data ready. Once the data is ready, then how do you go and engage with that specific set of people? Is that is where Journey Builder comes in. So they both work hand in hand. Journey Builder alone is pretty okay, it's pretty powerful, but when you have such and such scenarios that we will see today, later, so hopefully in a scenario where I will use Automation Studio to show you where we can use that to do some data processing and then feed that into a Journey Builder. Okay, so um, so just to confirm here, Journey Builder primarily is mainly for a one-to-one customer engagement. It's all about engaging with your customers. So you may have one to many set of customers that you have in your data extension, and then you would want to engage with them, and then every customer engagement you would be able to track it as they go through a particular path, and one path can be shared by multiple customers, so what that path is, and then it's all about building those paths upfront, based on what your knowledge is, what your use cases are, etc. And it's not set in stone that once you create it, you cannot modify it ever, but there are you can do revisions, but then there are some conditions to it as well, which we will cover when we come towards the latter part of the presentation. Okay. So just like how we saw for Automation Studio yesterday, we have entry sources and activities as well for, sorry, the slide is actually wrong. I should say Journey Builder features. Sorry. So it should be Journey Builder, we have entry sources as these are the entry sources that we have. So yesterday we saw just two, right? We saw the file drop and we saw schedule. So in Journey Builder, you can actually have more entry sources. And it's about like where do the contacts can get injected from. Okay, so there are different entry sources that you have, which we will look at in a minute. And then different activities like you see here, it's actually more than what you actually see. And then there are different categories as well than what we saw for Automation Studio. Automation Studio, we just looked at the basic ones, but the file based ones, and then we saw import data, data extract, which was the segmentation like filtering and SQL queries, and then send email and scripting, right? So here there's actually quite a lot more, but like depending upon the type of activity that they do, they have been actually categorized as well. Okay, we'll look at some of these in detail. Okay, so first we look at entry sources. So there are five that I have here, depending upon your, and these are the most common ones that are available depending upon your marketing cloud org permissions and the features that you have bought. You might get additional options as well. Sometimes you get audience builder from based on Audience Studio or audiences. You might have additional options as well. So these are the basic ones that at least you will come across when you have a normal account that you buy. Okay, and Salesforce data definitely comes in when you have a Marketing Cloud Connect. So you have connected it with your CRM instance, either Sales Cloud or Service Cloud. Okay. Okay, so let me show you. Go to our instance of Journey Builder here. Okay, so like we showed yesterday, like under Marketing Cloud, if you see here Journey Builder, just admit. Okay, under Journey Builder, you will see there is two options, either Automation Studio and Journey Builder. So we have clicked on Journey Builder, and when you come in, you will see the dashboard, and we can go ahead, create a journey. So there's two options that they have provided. One is a single step journey and a multi-step journey. Okay, single step is very simple. It's just like nothing, but you just schedule it and you can send out emails to the data extension that you choose, right? So that's it. But multi-step is the one that you will actually end up using the most, and that is what it's actually meant for. You have different scenarios, different parts that you want to take your customers on. So here is the entry sources that I was talking about, okay, earlier. And data extension is the most common one that you would probably come across. And since you all know what data extensions is, it's like pretty easily you can explain it. So if you select a particular data extension, if I have let's say a customer data extension that I want, let me go here and select a customer data extension, and then you can say so basically what it is trying to do is once you select it and activate it, if you have any specific conditions, based on those conditions, the people in that customers in that data extension which satisfy this filter condition that you specify, they will get injected into the journey automatically. That is what it means. Okay, so if I go here into filter contacts, and then I need to add certain conditions to it, I need to provide that here. If I don't provide, it's fine. It is not mandatory that you need to provide a filter for that, right? And then based on that, I will be able to schedule and get a data extension here. Now there is an additional option that you get with data extension. Okay, at the bottom you will see a schedule. So when you click on the schedule, what it means is, when do I need to go and get the data from this data extension, and poll the customers from here and check for any updates and then push them in. So by default, if you want, you can just do it one time. You can do a run once. Okay, recurring, if you do it, you can, it means basically I want to do it maybe if I want to run it every hour, or every week, every day. If I want to do that, I can do that as well. So every day it will go and it will check the data extension for any updates. Based on that, it will pull the data into the journey. Okay, so you can say evaluate new records, or you want to evaluate all records, similarly like how we saw, so we it will actually go ahead and check what is the condition that we need to satisfy for this pulling these contacts in. Now, if you don't specify any conditions, it will based on the evaluate the new records, like any new records that are coming in, those contacts will automatically be pulled into the journey. Okay, we cancel out from here. Actually, wait, recurring schedule. Daily after one. Okay, summary done. Oh, it's because I think the time is wrong. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, all records in the file. and done. Okay, so when you set like this, you can actually see like, you have a data extension selected and a schedule accordingly to when to pull it. Now, one thing you may have noticed, if I had changed the schedule, the automation is here, right? The automation is grayed out. This is because the data extension that I have chosen, the customer DE, is not used in any specific automation. Like if I go to any automation, any that we have created, like any workflow that I've created, if that or that customer DE is part of any automation, then it will get enabled here. And then if I want that automation, that if it is actually writing some data into this customer DE, and I want that to be actually used into the data extension based on that update, then this will get enabled. I can choose that. Okay, so that is when there is a handoff between Automation Studio to Journey Builder. In this particular case, it is not that. It is it is just going to your data extension, pulling the data from there into here. So anytime you want some processing happening in on the Automation Studio side, some data is getting processed and then getting updated to a data extension, and from there you want that data extension to feed into your Journey Builder, you would have to make sure you configure that in Automation Studio and then come here and choose that data extension name here. When you choose and when you bring up the schedule, you will see this will be enabled. Okay, and in our later example, I'll show that so it will be automatically enabled here, and then you will be able to see the options for that. Okay, so let me cancel out from here. So the second option that we have is an API event. Okay, now this is like I said, you have the option for programmatically sending contacts into Journey Builder. And if you have an external API, you can write API programs. You can call through API. You can call into Marketing Cloud. So for that, you create an API event. So for that, if you go in here, you can actually go, if you already created events in the past, you can select that. If not, you just create an event and it will create a event key for you. And then you tell which data extension do you want to use for your particular, like when those people come in, where do you want to store those customers, or the contacts that are coming in. So if I use the customer DE, it will say, okay, that is fine. And then you'll go ahead and use that. So it has created now an API event definition key for me. So this key I will have to use in an API. There will also be additional the client connection details that you will need to do, where how to connect using API into Marketing Cloud. So that is outside our scope right now. So once you know that, you will also need to provide this event definition key in your APIs, so that it knows automatically it will invoke here and pass the contact data. Once that passes in, it will actually pass the that contact into the journey. Okay. The next one is a cloud page. So cloud page is a web page or from our web studio. Like if you go to here, you will see web studio here. Cloud page is a web channel that we have in Marketing Cloud. Okay. So under cloud pages, you can build landing pages, microsites and all that. So I have a sample cloud page here that I created earlier today. So if I have a sample landing page like this, where customers can come to, either from an email or from your other external website that you can drive customers to here for sign up and all that. This is a smart capture form in a cloud page. Okay. So if I go here and start entering these data, and this is now tied to that customer the table that I have. Okay. So if I enter the data here, automatically it will get updated into that customer D, and then I can say associate that with the journey. So if I come here and I say, okay, now configure this, it will now try to see, okay, what are the cloud pages that I have built. Okay, so it will find this one, the customer DE form that I have actually created in that other one. And then it will show me all the data for that particular customer DE segment 0 data extension that I chose. And then if I click done, it'll automatically get configured. So anytime any customer comes into this particular form that we have published, people can, as they enter and submit their data, they will automatically get pushed into into the journey as well. So this is another way you can inject contacts into journeys. So the term that people usually use when you work with journey builders is called injecting a contact. Okay. So injecting customer or injecting a contact is basically how do you push contacts or customers into a journey. Okay. So you can do it through from your regular data extension, you can pull people in. Okay. Through APIs, you can inject that from externally through program. From cloud pages, like how we saw right now using a smart capture form, you can actually enter that and push people in as well. Okay. Now the fourth one that we can look at is if it's a Salesforce, if you have a Salesforce connection, which is CRM. So in our case, we have Marketing Cloud Connect. So for community and campaign, they've already given a default one that you can use for integration. But if it's not any of those two, let's say I want to pull from contact or a lead. Okay. So now because I have this Marketing Cloud Connect, you can see all the objects that I have in that particular instance, right? Now, just because we are seeing all these objects doesn't mean that we can use any of them for bringing in data for a customer. It should only be that you have a valid contact or a customer in that object. Okay, simply don't bring in any if you take a case object, it probably doesn't have, or an opportunity may not have a proper contact user record that we want to bring in. So if you have a contact that you want to bring in, like for instance this contact record, it will always look for a user ID, like either a contact or a user that is associated, the campaign member or something like that. So in our case, if you choose the contact object, you can choose the contact ID as the primary one that is going to be contact injected into the journey. And now you can set up the criteria, so okay, when do you want contacts to come in from your Sales Cloud instance into this journey? Okay, so I can say whenever a contact is created, probably not updated every time, it's updated, I don't know, but there could be use cases where you might have that. Okay, but let me say if if is created, I want to bring send people in, and then I can put a filter criteria here saying okay, for this particular contact, only bring in them if their email is valid. Okay, so I mean email is not null. Okay, I don't want to bring in contacts into our record if the email field is blank, I will not be able to send out any email. And the second most important one, definitely email opt-out should be false. Okay, so if their email opt-out is true, then I cannot send them any email, so I don't want to bring those contacts in as well. Okay, so you might want to evaluate if you're having a coming out of this scenario, you might want to maybe pull a report or see how many contacts actually satisfy that. So as soon as you do this and you pull this for the first time, all those contacts will flow in. So you need to make sure you have the proper criteria, and that the what is the data set that is going to come in, right? So if you give this criteria in, it'll bring in all the contacts that you have there, that has email, that is a valid email, and your email opt out is true, sorry, false. So meaning they are opted into receive emails. Okay? And then entry criteria, basically it's just what is the data that you want to use for your journey. So by default, because I've selected the contact ID and email and opt out, those options are already there. But let's say I want to add additional data, like for instance the first name, last name, which is not here. So let me just quickly check. If I enter the first name, last name, I can add that. I can even add related data, for instance from the account, if I want the account name. So where is account? If I add account name, you will see on the account object also the fields are getting added. Okay. So similarly, that you can see under contact and account, both the details are available now. Okay. When you click next, it will show you the summary of all the data that is actually getting captured from the contact side as the contacts. So anytime after you configure this, anytime you actually go and create a contact in your Sales Cloud instance, as long as they satisfy the criteria that we have mentioned, they will actually flow in. And there is a poll that actually happens, how often will the journey go and get that, so within that period, it will go and get the data in, and it will come into your journey. Okay. Thanks a lot.
I have a question, Shibu, over here.
Mm-hmm.
When we use Marketing Cloud Connect, by using that, we can use standard and custom object both, or Sales and Service Cloud, or only standard object we can use?
You can use both. So like I mentioned, when I showed you the select object earlier, there were all those objects that we showed, right? They were not only standard,
Yeah.
they were also custom. But like I said, if you're using the custom object, you have to ensure it has a contact or a user record, because that is what it's looking for. You cannot just bring in any field that you want, right? I mean, it's basically at the end of the day, what is it that you're actually pushing into a journey? It's a customer, right? Or a contact. So
So
if you're
there
storing,
must be a relationship with contact object,
not
with the
necessarily, not
not necessarily.
necessarily. If it's a user related field,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a user field that you have actually configured, it should be something that actually specifies that it's either a user or a contact. Okay. So I can even have like a user record. Yeah, probably I would say like maybe a contact record, look up on contact, and if you are actually having that in a custom, you can use that. Otherwise, it's the user that you are using as a user lookup in your custom object, that also as well. End of the day, it will actually only show you records that actually satisfy. For instance, any ID, like that is a user ID or a contact ID that is actually resolving, it will actually show you from those objects. If it doesn't, when you select that object, it will not show you that values.
And Marketing Cloud Connect is chargeable if we use it.
No, no. So Marketing Cloud is a installed package that you can actually add on to your Sales Cloud instance and then configure that across both the instances. In Marketing Cloud and in your Sales Cloud, you need to go and make some configuration changes. You have to go to the help documentation. There is Marketing Cloud install package, and the help documentation is there. So you can do it free of charge if you have both the orgs. The only thing is you need to have
Mhm.
specific licensed like user licenses available for the admin to be set up. Like two users you need to like set aside for like the admin and the user for for the connection. Okay, and then you have to configure the permissions, set licenses, and all that. So it's in there in that documentation like, that you have to follow. It's one. Yeah, it will take a little time, but once you get used to it, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, but there is no charge to MC Connect for now. Okay, let me change this out. And then the last one that we had here was event. So under event, the contact you can actually ignore for now because we are using the APIs and the audience is one for that. So date-based event is there. So if you have any data extension which has a date field that you can use. So one common example would be like, let's say you wanted send to somebody based on their anniversary, right? On their date of birth. So if I had a customer record here which had a date of birth field, so assume this was a date of birth field. Okay, so so if that was a date of birth field and I wanted to say okay, maybe 3 days or 4 days before that person's birthday, you want to pull the people in so that you want to send them a free gift coupon or a wish anniversary birthday wish or something like that, so you can use this as well. So you can have those people actually entered yearly kind of thing. So it's like, or monthly, the option is yours. So this is very useful if you have anything on a date based event field that you have in your data extensions, you want to pull people in based on that criteria as well. Okay, so those are the different entry sources that we talked about, like how we can actually pull people into your journeys. Okay, now let me just keep one here so I can start showing you how to configure. So then we'll now move into activities. Okay, so the first set in activities is messages. So primarily how we look at messages here is we will mostly look at email. These are all different ways and you can actually interact with your channel. If you are having SMS configured, then you can use if you have mobile connect, then you can use SMS to send out the SMS, right? If you have push notifications or inbox apps and all that enabled, you can use any of those to send out as well. So depending upon which channel you are actually using and you want to engage with your customer through that channel, you can use these for sending out. That's why this journey builder is very useful for cross channel messaging, not just email. Okay, but for this scope right now, we will actually look at emails, how do you, so if I want to send out an email, I will just pull the email in, and then I can go and configure that email by clicking on it. I can say, okay, select an email message and it will turn green. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. So if I click on here, if I select a message, whatever is in my content builder, if I want to bring any email that I've configured, so if I just select this, okay, what happened? So here you have to make sure you choose the correct. Okay, did I lose connection? Can you guys all hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Strange error that I got. Okay, so let me just pull that back again. Put an email, configure the email. select a message. Okay, so once I select the message, I can go and configure that. Like, if you have your default sender profile, delivery profile, and all that, that's fine. In delivery options, you have to choose which publication list you want. So the other day, I think somebody was asking me by default it is always going to all subscribers, because that's the default set here. If you don't want it to go to your uh, all subscribers, and you want to tag it to your weekly promotions or any of your publication list, you can actually do that here as well. Okay, and then in advanced options, that is not for advanced, sorry, in here, if you want to do any exclusions, you can add that here as well. So all these are available in the journey. Before you configure the email for the journey, you can do that here. Okay, so once you click and done, it will turn green. Okay, so that means you have configured that. Okay, and then by default there will always be a wait time here, a wait duration. So you can go and set that. Okay, wait till to exit from the journey. So if you want to in minutes, days, hours, whatever is it that you can choose. Okay, by default it will always do as 1 day. Okay. Now based on this, if you want to do some actions based on the email that you sent, that is where we'll get into the flow control. So flow control, the one that you will commonly come across is engagement split. Okay, so engagement split, okay, has to wait. Sorry. So engagement split is followed by an email. When an email is sent out, maybe you want to take some action based on this one. So if you click on this, it will ask you okay, what type of engagement do you want to do, and then what is which message do you want to monitor. So this is the email that we have sent in this journey. If you had multiple emails, it would have been actually to show all those, but since there's only one, this is the one that will show. And then it will ask you what metrics do you want to track as part of this. So if you say you want to track based on opens, clicks, or bounces, you can choose one of them. So if I want to know okay, how many people open the email, and I want to engage those customers, and the people who did not open, I want to engage them in different path, I can use that. Okay, so if I click like this and click done, now you will see it opened. So yes, did not open, no. So I immediately got two paths. Okay, so if I want to if people opened a particular email and I want to send them a specific coupon for that, I can do that here. The people who did not open, if I want to send them a reminder guys, please open the email or something like that, I can add that here as well. So you can easily depending upon the engagement, the behavior from your contacts who actually got the email, you can segregate them into different paths. Okay, now then there's something called decision split. Okay, now if it is a decision split, what that means is if let's say you have some attributes that you will have for your customers, right? So if you wanted to check if somebody has purchased something, or if you want to check if this person is a loyalty member. Okay, so if I go and then if I want to check, I'll have to click on here and then look at the data. And this I'll explain shortly later in this presentation how do you get all this data. But then if I want to review the data, specific data for the customer, where is customer, let's see, NTO data. Okay, if I want to see is NTO member. Okay, is NTO member, if it is true. Okay, okay, then based on that, if I say okay, this is NTO member, okay, and this is remainder. So if I okay, did not enter the value, wait. So if I click like this, what it means is if everybody who's an NTO member will go this path. Okay, whoever is not an NTO member will go the other path. So sometimes if I want to segregate people based on some attribute that they have in their data extension, this is very useful. Okay, we'll look at a later proper example of how we will use decision split to look at the data in their data extension and then segregate them into different parts. But this is very common use case that you will come across if you want to push people based on the attributes that you have. Okay, random split is something where we use if you want to randomly send people across different paths. So for instance, let's say in the beginning of here, if I have a number of customers coming in, and I want certain percentage or number of people going in one path and then certain to go in a different path. Okay, so I can easily configure that here. So if I say I want the first maybe 70% to go on path one and 30% to go in path two. Like, so that is possible here as well. So you can randomly, but you cannot say like which of the folks will be actually going into this one and the other one. Like, it will automatically randomly assign that for you. Okay. So we saw decision, random, and engage split. Now join is something like, let's say, after a particular this one, you want to send them another back to another flow that you already had. So if I wanted, let's say, this particular flow here, if I wanted them to join back to the flow that I had earlier, I can click over here, okay, and then just pull them back to where I want to join. So it's pretty straightforward. So once they this path, they want to rejoin back to an older path, I can do that as well. Okay. Wait, you saw by the particular duration. This is wait by duration, but you can also wait by attribute. Okay, so if I pull in wait by attribute, let's see if I have to. Can I pull it into? Okay, so if I click on here by based on that particular customer's attribute, you have to have a data field, date field for that. Let's see. Okay, by created, this is only a created date. So as long as you have a particular date field that you want to wait on, you can use that. Okay, and then you have to select the wait interval as well. So not, I don't know if you usually use that, but in rare cases, if you want to drive something based on an attribute field to wait for it, you can use that. Okay, but otherwise you will mostly end up using the wait by duration option. Okay, wait until date is similar to that other one, but it'll wait till a particular date hits, and then it'll go based on that. Okay. Now I don't know how many of you actually joined the Einstein session earlier today, but then if, few of you did. So if you have Einstein configured for your Marketing Cloud org, then this is something that's quite useful. So Einstein will tell you you can actually, based on the data that has been scoring and all that, it will know there's something called send time optimization. Okay, so if you, whenever you use an Einstein send time optimization just before an email, what it does is it'll actually, based on your customer, that is your contact that is coming in, it will go and check what is the most optimal time for to send that email to that person. Okay, so this is quite useful if you want to do that. Otherwise, what will happen is, as soon as the person comes in, if there is no wait duration here, immediately that email will get sent to that person. That person may or may not open that email if it is sent at that time. But what send time optimization does is, you can specify the duration within which to check what time is best for sending that email out. Like for instance, if it Einstein automatically recommends that you actually send it at certain time of the day for this particular person, it will wait till then, queue it up, and then only send it out. Okay. And it differs for every person. It'll look at each contact's data, and then based on the recommendations provided by Einstein, it will send accordingly. Not everybody, if you had 10 people coming through this path here, all 10 of them might have different values for the Einstein send time optimization. So that's an option that you can use. And then there is something called Einstein split. So Einstein split is very useful when you want to use based on various options that you have configured within Einstein. So let's say what is the likelihood that this person will open an email. So based on the data that it has collected, it will actually look like this, most likely, more likely, less likely, least likely. So if you want to configure your journey paths based on something like this, it's very useful. So if you think your most likely path is there, then you want to have some specific programs for them, you can actually take them through that path. Maybe your least likely people, then you want to do some additional incentives for them to get them to open your emails, or you'll be careful with them. So whatever your marketing strategy is, you can use this to segregate customers according to the various parts based on their engagement with you. Okay, that's on the flow control part. Let me go to customer update. Customer update is whenever you want to update. It's don't confuse when it says update contact. Don't confuse this with your contact in Salesforce. Okay, what this means is update your contact record here in Marketing Cloud. So you're anyway, every time you're coming in, it's always going to be a contact into a journey, right? So your contact record will be somewhere there in a data extension from where you're actually you're bringing the contact into the journey. So when you say update contact, you will actually select the data extension which you want, and then say what attribute do you want to update. I will show you in an example later, there are a few examples where we are updating a contact back based on certain conditions and decisions that we make during the journey. Okay. And then sales and service cloud, like these are specifically when you have marketing cloud connect and you're going to connect back to your sales or service cloud instance. For instance, sometimes when you have a customer is not engaging with you, and if you want to set a task for your maybe a sales rep, so you can actually go and configure that for a specific rep to user that you have in your sales cloud instance, to go and follow up on this particular thing. Like, so for instance, if I type in my name here, hopefully it will be there. Okay. And if I want to assign it for a particular contact or a lead that I have, so if I have like this, I can keep on configuring, any additional data that I want, I can actually go ahead and configure that, okay, follow up with customer. So this is just dummy data, and just showing you examples how you would actually just configure that, and then you can create that task, right? So you do that, then your task is there. In real life, you will actually have more data that you would actually go in and attribute it, but this is one way that you can do it. And you can create, update, opportunity, lead, most of the standard objects, and even any custom object you want as well, using object activity. So it's quite powerful, that you can actually reach out to your sales or service cloud instance from a journey, and you can map it to your specific contact attributes if you want, like from marketing cloud, you want to compare that and you want to send some data from here and update that into sales cloud, you can do that as well. Okay. So this is just an overview of these are some of the activities that you would use within journeys. Just showed you a sample of how you would use that if you were to come across a scenario. Any questions on this before I go into a proper example? Okay. Couple of other things, there is something called journey settings. Under journey settings, you need to know okay, how often do you do a contact entry? Okay. So what it means is every time a contact comes into a journey, they will be going through it till they exit from that journey. Okay. Now, if you say no re-entry, that means that contact will not re-enter into the journey anymore. Like once it has come in, they will not re-enter the journey anymore. Okay. So for example, a welcome journey, right? So once I get into a welcome journey, I will not be welcomed again and again, right? So it's all to get welcome emails again, right? So that is an example where you want to do no re-entry. Re-entry anytime might be I might qualify for based on certain let's say whenever I purchase something from a site, I am actually sent an email, and maybe some warranty or some documentation with that, or maybe a specific sent through a particular part to get something done. So irrespective of how many purchases I do, every time I need to go through that journey. If that is the case, then re-enter anytime. I might, let's say I might enter into that journey today because I purchased something. Tomorrow if and I might not exit it immediately as well, right? It might take some days before I exit from there. And tomorrow if I purchase again from that same site, I might enter again for the second product that I bought. Okay, so that is not a problem. I can, and two versions of my contact record can exist within the journey if you do re-entry anytime. Okay. Now re-entry only after exiting is a case where you can re-enter into the journey, but only if you exit from the journey, which means only one version of yours can exist within the journey, and you can enter it multiple times. Okay, so that is possible. So depending upon your use case, you need to ensure you select the right one for the contact entry. Now the email attribute that you would use is depending upon the data extension that you choose, you have to use that email address. So if you're using the email that you want from the data extension, then you can, once you select the data extension, automatically the fields will actually show up here. So you can use that. Okay, or you have to use your, from your all subscribers or all contacts list, you have to use your email address field. Okay, so you can use either one of those two. Okay, then okay, let me go into the difference between the journey data and contact data. Okay, so remember earlier, when I was trying to configure, let me from here. So remember when I was actually trying to configure here earlier, I was showing you certain data fields here, like all this edit when I was showing uh, this contact data and journey data. Okay, so it's very important for you to understand the difference between these two. Okay, what this means is journey data is basically the data of a particular contact that it takes as a snapshot when just before you enter into the journey, like or as you're entering into the journey, it will take a snapshot of that contact. Okay, so if let's say I'm actually using a customer data extension that I showed earlier, like so it will have my first name, last name, emails, customer ID, all those data. So it will take a snapshot of that and keep it in a data extension. Right? Now that data will be static. It will not change throughout my entire journey. Okay. So sometimes when we look at this name, we might get a misconception that okay, that is the data that is going to be used throughout the journey and will keep on changing as I go through the journey. No. Okay, it is just a snapshot that is actually being kept. So anytime you want to compare like your contacts data with what was it before we started the journey, you can use that journey data. Otherwise you shouldn't be using that. Your live data, like as and when you are actually like going through the journey, anytime you want to see your live data, it is always going to be your contact data. Okay, now where do I configure this contact data? So that is in your contact builder. So if I come into contact builder here, there is something called attribute groups. So it's nothing but a collection of like your data extension and by specific applications that you want to keep, and like what are the data extensions fields that you want to use within, like you will end up using within journey builder. Okay, so for instance, in for this NTO one, I created a group called NTO. Okay, so for that, I have few data extensions that I have here, like an abandoned cart and an NTO customer. So they are both linked to your contact model. So everything will, at the end of the day, it should be linked to a contact model. Like your center, everything is always linked to contacts. Okay. So remember we talked about data relationships in Email Studio, right? So we were saying like if I want to have different data extensions, I want to link them. That is done in Email Studio through data relationships, and that was only used for the filtering there. So outside Email Studio, that is no longer valid, right? So then when you want to use data extension linking and how do they relate back to the customer, like the contact key and all that, this is where you do it. You have to come into data designer, you have to come into the attribute groups, and you can start linking your different data extensions, and then how do they actually map it back to the contact. Okay, so I'll give you an example here. We will do it one, show you how to do that. So we have a set of that customer data extension, the order details, order history and all that, right? So if I want to link those, I'll come here and I will take the, let's go to the customer one. So customer D is the primary one that actually maps to the contact key, right? So the contact model is the central repository of where that is where the all contacts reside. So we'll link it to that. So we're saying the customer ID is the one that maps to the contact key for this particular data extension, and it's a one-to-one mapping. If it's like one-to-many, it would have been different, but this is like one-to-one mapping, right? And then I will say, yeah, click here. You can click on done, and then automatically it will map your specific data extension to uh, this contact key here. And I've actually stored it under this application for called customer orders. Okay, or this attribute group of customer orders. This will be quite useful because later when I go into the journey builder for configuring, if I want to know, let's say I'm creating journeys for this particular customer orders and related to that, I need to just look under that name. I will show you later. Under customer orders, I can click on that under contact data, and I can see all the data extensions and attributes that I've actually linked over here. Now, if I only link this table or this data extension, I can only get these attributes in the journey builder when I look under customer orders. What if I wanted the order details and all that as well? So I need to link those as well, right? So I need to click here and link those additional data extensions. So for if I go here into customer order, so we have order history table, which is linked to the customer ID table, right? So under here, you will see customer ID and the customer ID here. Now every customer can have multiple orders, right? So you can be one to many. So I can click like this and add that. Okay. Just take a little time. So once it comes, you will see I'll be able to see the attributes across both in both the tables, when I go into Journey Builder. If you don't link it in attribute groups, then you will not be able to refer those fields. So this is very, very important that you actually link your data extensions properly and then map it back to your contact model here, and then under the right attribute group. Like you can create multiple attribute groups. So if I go here, I can just click on here, create an attribute group. It's nothing but a collection of different data extensions and their attributes that you want to collectively group together so you can use in your processes like Journey Builder and all that. Okay. So now if I go to Journey Builder and if I want to see the customer orders right now, because I've not refreshed it. So card. So let's see if I can still see it here. No, it doesn't come up. So okay, but let me show you probably NTO one. So under NTO, we had seen two data extensions, right? So if I want to see those NTO data, if I click on that, it will show me all these fields that I can use. The only reason I can see it is because if I go to this attribute group called NTO, okay, these two data extensions were linked over there. So if we go back to this one here, and this is NTO. Okay, now you see these two are linked to this. Either it can either be linked to this particular data extension, or they both can be linked directly to contacts. I can have more data extensions also. If you think they are actually directly linked to a contact model, you can have them. All of them can be linked to here. Or if they're linked to each other, then you can actually link that as well, like we saw earlier with the customer and the order one. As long as you have all the proper data extensions linked here, you will be able to refer them here in this contact model, the contact data here. Okay. Any questions on contact data and journey data and how to use the contact builder to get that data? Okay, we cancel out from here. Okay, so let me go to an example. So are you guys familiar with abandoned cart? Anyone? So many of you probably might have actually shopped online, right? So sometimes we actually go online, and when we especially e-commerce sites, when you want to shop online, you might look at in a certain product and you might say, okay, yeah, this looks good. You might go and add that in, but then you might have second thoughts. Okay, so once it is added to your cart, you have the option to buy it immediately, or you might come back and decide upon it later. So if you've added something to the cart, and then you leave from there, it's called an abandoned cart experience, right? So many e-commerce sites actually track that, so they actually be able to track that from the site, and then they will actually they would want to engage with you, if you don't come back and maybe buy that or make a decision in the next few days. So that data can be collected, and you can actually send it to a journey, and then based on the type of purchase that you're planning to do, they can send you different types of emails as well. So this one is an example where they're actually sending the data to the abandoned cart journey. They're actually sending the data in to Marketing Cloud, and based on some automation processes, the data will automatically flow into this particular journey here. Okay. Now I'll show you the tables that we had built. So it has the customer data. Okay, and then abandoned cart is what we actually get. If I go into abandoned cart, it'll actually show you the various carts and which are the profiles who actually left, and what was when did they abandon the cart, and what was the amount that they did, right? So there is multiple data in here. So this is kind of like a feed that comes in from through a file from an external site. We get that data, right? And then what we do is we create an abandoned cart audience here using some SQL queries. We map the data with from that abandoned cart one along with the customer data, the customer record that we had. We will match those two and then create this particular table here. So it will have the customer ID, it will have the email ID, it will have the cart ID, it will have the amount and all that. So one single table does not have all that, right? So earlier, if you had the customer table here and you had the abandoned cart, I wanted the fields from abandoned cart and NTO customer for us to prepare some data that so we can use it in a journey. So we use SQL query to get data from those two, and then we actually added that into this particular table here. Now, this will actually have data from multiple dates. Okay, so what if I don't want to send it to everybody here? So I probably want to pull in data for only the people who had abandoned it like one day before. So I'm running this probably every day. So I want to whoever actually abandoned the cart yesterday, I want to do it. So then what I would do is I will do a filter on this. Okay, so that is after doing the filter, I've created another data extension from that filter which says okay, who are the people who actually abandoned the cart yesterday. So you can see at the end of the day I got 4 records remaining now. So this is what I want to push it into my journey now. So I'll show you in Automation Studio how did we do that. So yesterday we saw how do you configure some of these activities. Okay, so this is one sample how we do that. I've just scheduled it for now, but ideally you would run it every day. The file transfer will actually go and pick that abandoned cart file, and then it will actually update our data extension with the abandoned cart. And sorry, the import will update that into our abandoned cart data extension. The SQL query, like I mentioned, this is where you will be able to view the data. I mean, combine the data from those 2 data extensions, like the abandoned cart and the NTO customer. Like I see here, right? You can actually get the fields from both the data extensions, and it will update that particular data extension that we saw earlier, the abandoned cart journey, the audience. The filter, like I mentioned, it'll actually look for the date, the specific date. If we are saying just one day before, pull all those data in, so it'll actually do the filter. So this is a very good example of how do you use multiple activities in automation, and then you pull that data into your journey, right? And this is not something that you configure in Automation Studio. This will get automatically entered, added in from when you configure this particular data extension that you have last entered here. When you configure that in a journey, this data, I'm using this abandoned cart journey queue, right? When I use this particular data extension in a journey here, and I specify as an automation, automatically when I activate this, it will go and update the step here in this here. So next time when this automation runs and this step is also included in that, automatically these people will get pushed into the journey. Otherwise, what will happen is if I don't if I simply create a journey, and if I have people in here, it will not pull in. If you have set it to automation, it will only pull in the data when an automation runs and then updates this particular data extension. And at the final step, this particular step is also executed. It's kind of a fire event kind of thing, where it will push that the whatever is resulting from here, it will push that data into the journey. Okay, so let me see if I can run this. Okay, so if I do a run once, I've edited the data, so hopefully that 4 are there. So let me see if I can so we can do a filter and this one. So we don't need to import the file and all, because the data has already been imported. The data is there. I've already created the data. So maybe we'll just do the filter and then do the journey. So we'll click on run. So like I said yesterday, if you're not including these activities, it will show you this, right? Click on run now. And if I go to activities, if it has started, yeah, so there you'll see. So this is a good example where it shows these 2, meaning we have excluded all these initial activities. It is starting with the filter, and then the final one will go to the journey. Now a journey here is actually running, so this journey is actually running. And if once the data comes in, you will see the the number of people coming in as well. These are the ones that actually previously came in. So earlier when I ran it, I had 2 people come in. So based on the data that I see here, they will get evaluated and come in. So what we have done here in this particular journey, the logic is, if the total amount that they have actually put on the cart, that they were trying to purchase, if it is greater than 150, it's for us, it is a high value. Okay, so we are sending them a high value email. Okay, so it's a specific email saying okay guys, so it's a specific customer that we want them to buy from us. Okay, and ideally it will not be 2 minutes for us, just because for demo purposes I kept as 2 minutes. And then we will check if they have purchased it. If they purchased it, great, then they will exit from the journey. If they're not purchased it, then we will send them a reminder email okay, you have not purchased it. We will send them a coupon, say a 10% coupon, would you like to still go ahead and finish your purchase? Please use this 10% coupon for your next purchase. Now, if it is less than 150, then it's a low value email. So it's a different email that we will be sending. So that will go as well. And at the end of the day, you'll see the join back here because I still want to check if they have purchased it, right? Now this purchase basically which I'll see check a particular attribute in our data extension and see, like, that will get updated through some other process. Like let's say some e-commerce process is running outside your system, and once they're purchased, you will have a feed that will update your data extension. So ideally this will takes few days, like, you will wait a few days to see if somebody has purchased it, and then based on that you will see, like, okay, if that person has purchased it, then exit or send them a reminder, like, with the coupon. So that is what they do. Let's go back here and check if this actually ran. Okay, so you'll see both of this ran, and the final step was pushing it into the journey, right? So if I go to event results here, you will see it has evaluated 6. Earlier it was 2. So now it has evaluated the 6 people, and 6 have been accepted total. So the additional 4 also should be there. So now you will see earlier it was 2 here. Now the additional 4 actually came in, and then you will see 3 actually went this way and 3 went this way. Okay, so these have still not been updated because it is waiting for this time. So after some time you will see, like, these are also getting updated here, and depending upon the purchase value. So the purchase value also have updated, like, few of them have purchase is equal to true and few of them have false. So depending on that, it will go to different paths as well. So as journeys actually progress, you will see, like, you will be able to go and see the, like, the progress over here, like, how many people are going through which path, etc. Okay. Any questions on how this runs from especially from an automation to a journey? Okay. Okay, let me go to now one more example that I had. So this one thing, yeah, this is the one that I created. Okay, so we won't run this, but I'll give you an example of, like, what we did here. So this is a data extension that I had created from for, like, probably an e-commerce scenario. Like, so if I have customers who have purchased, like, by default, when the customers are coming in, like, I do not assign them any loyalty flag, like loyalty membership. Okay, just a fictitious scenario, just think of it. So if they purchased from us, I want them to update them as a loyalty member. Okay, and I have an attribute in that particular table. So if I go to the table, this table here, so this is e-commerce, is e-commerce customer DE, right? So if you see here, I have the customer name, the customer ID, the details, everything. Is loyalty member, by default it is false. Email opt-in is true, and the tier is always registered. So a new customer who's coming in is registered. Okay. Now, depending upon, like, if the person has purchased, if a person has purchased it, then automatically I will want to update them as a loyalty member. If not, you just send them an email with special offers, and then, like, let them go. So whenever a person has purchased, like, I want them to, like, go through this particular path here. Okay. And then as soon as you see that, that they're purchased, so if I click on this, it will actually show me, what attribute am I checking at. It is actually checking, it is going to check a particular table where it shows all the customer IDs that have made a purchase. Okay. So how I've done that is, if I go to here, I have another table called order history. Okay, so this contains all the customers with the orders, and then I have actually wrote a SQL query to combine these two data and show me the total orders per customer. Like, I want to, like, to get the total amount. So one customer can actually have maybe, like, 3 or 4 or 5 purchases that they have made, right? So I want to combine all of that and then aggregate it and show, okay, this particular customer, how much has he bought from us till now? Okay, so you can see, like, it'll actually total that for you, because I want to use this later for, confirming their tier as well. Like, if they're gold, silver, bronze, etc. They depending upon the amount that they've purchased from us. So that's one scenario that I want to look at as well. So if my customer record is here, which this means that, this person has purchased from us, and definitely that will be can be considered as a loyalty member. Okay, so that is one way to do it. So if I go back, so this is the table that I used a SQL query, like, to combine data from here and wrote it into here. Okay. Now, so in here, when I clicked on this particular has purchased, I'm checking that value. If that customer ID in that table is not null, so it will actually look for this contact. For every contact that is coming in, it will check if that customer ID in that table is there or not. Okay. If it is there, then automatically it will evaluate it true and come in. Okay, and then it will update the loyal. So remember, I was telling you in Journey Builder there is that update contact activity, right? So what that does is, like, you can tell, okay, now based on this, go ahead and update a particular data extensions specific attribute. So here I chosen, like, go back and update this particular e-commerce data extension. So in this particular data extension that I have here, you saw this this is loyalty member, right? By default it is false. I want it to be marked as true because that person has made this purchase. So here I will actually specify that, and I'll say select that attribute and make it true. Okay, so I can do that. And if I want multiple attributes to be, like, updated, I can do that as well, like, so for that particular data extension. So very useful use case, like, you can evaluate and then you can update that particular contacts records attributes based on conditions. Okay, then after I wait, like, automatically I'm asking again another decision. Okay, now that they've done a purchase, I want to know how much total have they purchased from us till now. Okay, so what I've done here is, again, I've segregated this into gold, silver, bronze, register, right? And registered, right? So how do I have it is, I have actually conditions, like, if the total amount is greater than 500, it will go under gold. Okay, if it is between 251 and 500, it is silver. So I can give these values here. I can go ahead, and then this total amount, again, like I said, is coming from the table that I wrote through the SQL query. So how you see how segmentation is quite useful in this case, like, so if I go into this table, it actually shows me, like, what are the customers and what is the total amount. So if I check if this particular customer is available in this table and what is his total amount, I can use that to, like, compare over here. Okay, and because I have used this particular table, this table, I have actually, referred that in our attribute groups as well. So if I go to, where is e-commerce here. So I have added these tables here. Okay, this is why I'm able to use these fields in a journey builder. If I had not, added these fields and linked it to contact, when I try to, like, bring up those fields for, checking in the decision split, I will not be able to see those fields. So this is very important. As a prerequisite, you need to make sure your data extensions are mapped to the contact model in data designer. Okay, so then I can actually view the fields. I can segregate them into, different tiers, and registered is means, like, they are the regular ones. So I'm not like, changing any of that. By default it is registered. Now depending upon on that, but like I said, because they were already like, showing as registered by default, I need to now update their tier, right? So I will update it to, like, gold, silver, bronze, or leave it as registered itself, depending upon which path they come in. Okay, and then again, like I said, it's the update contact over here. And now I want to send them an email as well. So if it's gold, I want to send them a 30% coupon. If it is silver, 20, 10, and the other one 5, and then they can exit. So this is one sample way of, like, how you can, a very small example of, like, how you can use and segregate people based on decision split, and then you can also update contacts back, and then based on the path you can send different types of emails as well. Okay, any questions so far? I think we've covered most of the things I wanted to cover today. Let me just check. So we saw these, okay, journey versions and goals. So the goal that I've actually mentioned, so for every journey you will have a goal. Okay, so in this particular case, I actually said, like, as part of the goal, I wanted, like, at least 1,000 people to achieve loyalty member status. So you will have to specify a criteria. Okay, what is it that we are trying to measure here? So I'm trying to see, like, loyalty member is true. So at the end of the day, I want people to purchase from me. So this is like one of the goals that I have set, and I want to, like, see if like at least 1,000 people that I want to, like, end up, like, having purchase from me and become a loyalty member, right? So if you see here, like, the first time it ran through, it actually, like, processed 6 people. So all the 6, like, that came in, like, were automatically showing us 100%. But when I go back to the journey dashboard, it will show me, like, there's 1% is where I've achieved it, because it's like only 6 out of 1,000, right? That's what I'm waiting for. So, like, it will show you progress as you go through, like, how many have you achieved so far out of the goal that you have actually set. Okay, versions, like I said, when a contact enters your journey, okay, in most of the time it might span across multiple days, like, maybe even weeks or months, right? So if when a contact is going through a particular journey, like, before they exit, let's say you have another version created because you wanted to do some update. Like, so anytime now, once you have activated a journey, you cannot make changes to it. Very important. Okay. The only way that you can make changes to it is if you create a new version. So let's say now if I wanted to make some change over here, like, so like, I want, like, going forward, like, some changes need to happen. I need to create a new version and then activate that. Okay. So what then happens is any new contacts that are getting injected will get injected into the new version. Okay. The people who are actually on the older version, okay, will continue on the older version till they exit. Okay. Once they exit, if they are allowed to re-enter the journey, then they will enter the new version. If not, they will just exit and leave. Okay. Or if it's like re-enter any time, the next time that they are, like, another instance of theirs is re-entering, it will always enter in the new version. But people who are in the existing journey will not get pushed to the new journey when a new version is created automatically. They will continue in the old journey. So keep that in mind when you're editing journeys and, creating multiple versions, etc. Right. The one way to, like, exit people out is you stop the journey completely. But that what will happen is, like, everybody who's irrespective of where they are in the journey, everybody will get kicked out of a journey. Not always recommended because you're not sure where people are at that particular time, right? So unless you can see that, and if you see that everybody is in a specific area that, you're okay to, like, kick them out of the journey, then okay. But yeah, be very, very careful, like, when you take decisions like that. You have to refer that with your marketing team, and see, like, if it's safe to do that, or it's better to, like, let them exit peacefully, like, in the older version while you create a new version.
Shibu, I have a question.
Yes.
How can you test that everything is mapped properly and the right people is getting right emails?
Okay, so there is something called test as well. Let me see if I can validate. Actually, if I do that, it'll actually take a long time. But okay, I'll show you the interface and then I'll show you a screenshot of how it looks like. Okay, so if I create a new version here, let me go ahead and save and validate. Hopefully it'll let me test it. So once you've created your journey, like, you have to validate that to make sure there is no errors, and then you can test your journey. Okay. So you can actually, like, here at the bottom you see test, right? So you click on test, and then you can choose the contacts that you want to, like, send through this. So you know which are the contacts that you want from your data extension. So in this particular case, maybe, like, let's say I have, like, one or two contacts, like, on the BSEC, and then I say, what is the send type? So if the emails, there are emails in there, like, you don't want to send out any messages, you can choose this option. Or if you want to send it to your email ID for those people, you can do that as well. Okay, this particular case I'll just use this, and then if I click on this and then say start test, it will start evaluating that. Okay. And then once what happens is, it will show me at the end of it, it will show me up to 10 contacts you can actually select from the data extension to test. Depending on the number of contacts and the data and everything, like, it will evaluate the whole thing, and then it will show you the results here. And when you select each contact, it will show you the path which it will actually go through. Okay. So
I
this
see.
is, yeah, this is one very useful feature, like, I think it was recently launched, like, that you can use to, like, see, and, like, automatically identify, okay, this particular contact, which way is he going. So you can create multiple, maybe even test data to see, like, for different conditions, and see if they are going through the path that you thought they would go through. Okay. So let me see if I have a slide here that shows that. Okay, yeah, see here, this one. So if you see this green path for this particular contact, you'll see I had chosen two contacts. The second contact, when I selected here, based on the data, it actually will shows that, this contact goes through this path here, the green one. Okay. The other record that I heard earlier, it was actually going through the first path here. So it's very, very useful, like, for you to see, like, and replicate and see, like, okay, if I were to run this actually with the particular contact of this data, how would that contact actually flow through the journey?
Really cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, so this has actually come. So you can see here the first contact actually went through this path. And you see the second contact went through the second path here. Like, so they both actually were had purchased, but the first one qualified for gold, the second one qualified for silver. Okay. Any other questions, team? That's basically what I had, yeah, for journeys. So I'll just...
Shiba, sorry, Shiba, I have one more question. I'm so sorry.
No worries, go ahead.
I have a question on APIs. It was in the beginning, actually. Can you please tell me more about API event, like the use cases that can be implemented in the journey? Because I'm trying to understand it, but still didn't get it.
Okay, so let me exit out from here. So if you create a particular journey, okay, like, there are different ways, like I said, that you can actually enter a journey, right? So if you have a data extension or a cloud page, or if it's coming from Salesforce, it's pretty straightforward. But sometimes, like, you have, like, let's say you have an external application where you have contacts, okay? Like, let's say you have an e-commerce site, like, you have contacts there and you want to send data from there directly to your journey. It's possible, like, through programmatically. So using API, you will be able to, like, integrate into Marketing Cloud. Like, for that you have to go to setup, you have to, like, do like, install packages, like you can say you're going to be using APIs to, like, interact with Marketing Cloud. So there is some setup involved there. Once you do that, like, from through programming, you will be able to, like, invoke into Marketing Cloud, and for that you need that API event key. So basically, I have to say, like, okay, which data extension am I going to be using to store the contacts that I'm going to send in through the API. So it's like, whenever you want to send a contact from an external application, okay, it's only going to be there through some integration, right? And that integration happens through the API. Okay, so for that you need to, like, create some key here so that it knows, okay, it doesn't know otherwise, like, okay, who do I need to come and like, interface with to, send that particular contact, right? So it needs to know that unique ID to, like, come to this particular journey. So this is the event key that will get generated by JB when you choose this API event. Then you can say, okay, I want to, like, when that contact comes in from that API, use the particular data extension here. If I click done, it'll say, okay, now this is ready. So in your API program, like, when you write the code, you have to use, like, you will definitely use using Postman or some of the APIs that you have. You will have the regular code to, like, connect to Marketing Cloud. Along with that, you will also need to know this API event definition key for it to, like, specifically come to this and inject the contact into it. There is actually documentation available on Marketing Cloud on how to use programmatic APIs to, like, inject the contacts into the journey. So if you're going to be, like, going into advanced modules like learning, especially on Marketing Cloud developer, sessions and all that, you will come across those scenarios, like how to use APIs to, like, inject contacts into journeys.
I see.
Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, team, any other questions? Okay, I see some chat. Oh, okay, that's Maria. Okay.
Shibo, and it's me again. I'm so sorry. People just don't have questions. I do.
No worries. Right.
I was wondering regarding the reports on Marketing Cloud. So we had a session when lady explained us how the reporting looked like, the theoretical part, but we never tried the practical part, right? How
Okay,
to
so let me
build
see
the
if I
reports.
can have, so under reports, okay, so let me refresh 1 second. So when you come into report builder, like, for here under reports and under analytics builder, there is a catalog which you can actually choose and say, okay, what are the type of reports that you want to see? So if you want to look at email reports, there's already a set of, like, different report templates that are available. So if you want to see an email send report, you can actually go ahead and click it, and then you can say, okay, for the last 30 days, like, I want to see all the email sends. Okay, then it will create that particular report for you. Okay, and then you can either FTP it, or you can email it out. Okay, or you can actually download that like as a XLS or Excel file. You can do that. You can, if you save this, you can even do a snapshot, or schedule it to be automatically sent out, maybe on a weekly basis or a monthly basis as well. Okay, so there are multiple
Nice.
options that you can actually run the reports. This is very simple option, but there are a lot of different reports, like more complex reports that people use. And depending on each channel, if you have multiple channels that you engage with, like with mobile and all that, you can use that. So I just showed you just the default one for email, but I was just showing a few examples
Yeah,
here.
just good to know that we do have pre-built reports. You don't
Yes.
have to create automation or SQL queries. I don't know, something like this. Just
Yeah,
click
but
the button.
like we showed yesterday in automation, we can still do an extract, of the tracking information. So that is also quite useful if you want to use that for for data processing later. But this is the other option, you can still get tracking information from reports as well. Okay, in email there is also another option where you can see your send data, so if let's say you've been sending out data every time. So under the tracking here, if you come here, you will see all the different emails that you have sent. Okay, and
Mhm.
then if you go into that specific, I don't have any data here, but let's see if under Journey Builder I have some data. The version 1. Okay, so if this email was sent out and if I clicked here, okay, it shows, it doesn't come up. Okay, it's refreshing. Sorry. But primarily, if you had any send info, yeah, here, good. At least it's coming up here. Okay, so if I have information about the particular email that was sent out, you will be able to see that in the overview tab under the sends. You will see the send performance. What was was it delivered? How many people opened it? What are the unique opens, unique clicks, if anywhere, etc. So all this information you can actually see it over here in the tracking tab. Okay, now this is for the specific Journey Builder one. If it is actually a regular email that was sent out from your Marketing Cloud instance, you can actually see it under My Tracking, under the single sends. You can see that. If it is a test send, you can see it under test sends as well, or if it's a triggered send, under triggered send. So depending upon the send, it will actually be in the specific folder. You can go and see the how the emails are being sent out, what is the specific status, and the tracking activity regarding that. So if I go and click, sometimes some of these, who are the unique clicks, if I want to click on that, it will show me the data about that as well. So it's saying these are the 2 customers that actually clicked on that or opened that email. Okay, so it's quite powerful. You have a lot of tracking information already available in the Email Studio. And then any additional data that you need, you can always get it from your data views through SQL query. You can actually pull that out, or if you want to get it through your tracking data extract, you can do it, or through Report Builder as well.
And do you need to add the UTM codes in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, or it's created automatically when you're adding the links?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Do you need what?
Do you need to add UTM codes for the links for the tracking purposes, or it's going to be added automatically in Salesforce Marketing Cloud?
No, so like Jenna mentioned that day, when you create the emails, you have to add the tracking pixel, so
Pixels.
she
Yeah.
showed you in the code. Yeah. So in when you in the content, when you create, and that is only in HTML emails, you will not be able to add that in a text email. Okay, so if I go to a specific, let's say an email, okay, I probably have to create an email here. I'm not sure if I can edit the text, but code view. Okay, it's locked because it's a template. But if I had the HTML, under the snippets, it'll actually show me a counter, so here, you see this open counter tracking. This is the tracking pixel that will get added. Okay, now her specific recommendation was to keep it towards the top. because like features like Gmail might clip it if you keep it towards the bottom, if it goes beyond a specific size, right? Yeah, so unless and until you have this particular tracking pixel, when you send out the email, it will not get tracked. So which is why text emails are difficult. You will not have HTML, right? So you will not be able to track if you send out a text email.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions, team? Okay, if nothing else, I think we can wrap up with this. That brings us to the end of our boot camp. And thank you all for patiently joining in every day. I hope this was very useful. Please do keep in touch with us. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We have a big group of marketing champions who definitely love to help our community. So do let us know, and hopefully we hope to see you guys be part of our group later in future as well. Okay.
Thank you so much, Shibu.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Have a good evening, good afternoon, good morning.
Thank you so much.
Okay.